Version. He fulfilled his purpose. Former President of the Republic of Ghana, first President of the Fourth Republic. He who lives only unto himself withers and dies, while he who forgets himself in the service of others grows and blossoms in life and in eternity. G. Hinckley. Duty, decency, accountability, social justice, human rights, dignity. These are all values that former President J.J Rawlings not only held in high esteem, but practiced every day during his time on earth. A towering and transcendent figure in African politics, former head of state and President of the Republic of Ghana, Flight Lieutenant J.J Rawlings is admired widely on the continent of Africa and internationally for his patriotism, sincerity, drive, and participatory leadership approach. J.J Rawlings was many things. He was an officer, a pilot, a husband, and a father. He was a revolutionary, a hero, and a philanthropist. He was a celebrated statesman, and he was a former president of the Republic of Ghana. Collectively, these are all the titles and duties of a life that has been well lived. But no single title captures his most important contribution as a public servant. Above all, J.J Rawlings was a man of the people, a selfless man who gave his life willingly in service to the ordinary Ghanaian. His life's work was not to champion the causes of those with wealth or power or special connections. It was to give a voice to those who were not heard. The strength of J.J Rawlings was his sincere dedication to the cause of the working poor and oppressed masses. Quote, "For myself, I am ready for whatever sacrifices are required in such a struggle for a better life for our people, and I will forever work with and be at the service of the people who share that common cause," unquote. He was given the gift of empathy and was able to humbly feel for and show compassion for the pain and suffering of others. The sick child who could not see a doctor, or the young soldier denied his basic human rights. He understood the language of the people, and he articulated it with all conviction and empathy. By calling on workers, soldiers, farmers, policemen, teachers, and students to raise their consciousness. Known for his anti-corruption credentials, J.J Rawlings was a profound and fearless advocate for social justice, accountability, and the political and socio-economic empowerment of Ghana's people. He eventually made his mark on the world by committing to a purpose much bigger than himself. For J.J Rawlings, that meant answering the highest of callings, which was serving his country in a time of extreme deprivation. Throughout his life, President J.J Rawlings used his gift to touch as many lives and right as many wrongs as the years would allow. Early life and education. J.J Rawlings was born on June 22nd, 1947, in Accra, Ghana. He was first named Jeremiah Rawlings John and was baptized Roman Catholic. His father, James Ramsey John, a pharmacist from Scotland, migrated to the Gold Coast, Ghana in 1935 to work and become head of the Kingsway Chemists. His mother, Madame Victoria Abutri from Jelokupe, in the Volta region, was the head of the catering department at the State House. Raised by his mother, she wanted her son to be a doctor, but at the young age of 6, Rawlings recalled telling his mother that he wanted to be a pilot. He enrolled in the prestigious Achimota School in 1961, where he was very active in the school choir and Red Cross. He also excelled at the Cadet Corps, which suited his no-nonsense and disciplined personality. It was therefore not a surprise to his classmates when he joined the Ghana Air Force. J.J Rawlings was also one student who stood up to bullies and described by his year group as someone who always looked out for the weak and vulnerable and defended them. With his sole passion for flying, J.J Rawlings enlisted as a flight cadet of the Ghana Air Force after Achimota in August 1967, and was subsequently selected for officer cadet training at the Ghana Military Academy and Training School in Teshi, Accra, when he enlisted as a flight cadet at the age of 20. Jerry's surname was changed from John to Rawlings. Assuming John to be a second Christian name, the Air Force administration made a clerical error and recorded Rawlings as his surname. He has been known ever since as J.J John Rawlings. As part of his ongoing training, he was posted to the Takoradi Air Force Base in the Western region in 1968, where he subsequently advanced and became a commissioned pilot officer of the Ghana Air Force in January 1969, and was awarded the Distinguished Speedbird Trophy for his outstanding airmanship. He got posted to No. 1 Transport Squadron for his operational conversion and training on the DHC Otter aircraft. In June 1970, J.J Rawlings was posted to the Communications Squadron, Air Force Station, Accra, as a squadron pilot flying the Beaver aircraft. And shortly after, in December 1970, he was then reposted to No. 1 Squadron, Air Force Station, Takoradi, to continue with his operational duties as a squadron pilot on the Beaver and Otter aircraft. Just a month after January 1971, J.J John Rawlings was interviewed and selected to join the prestigious No. 4 Fighter Squadron at the Air Force Station in Accra. He began his conversion and operational training on the MB-326F aircraft, and in April 1972, he was appointed Station Adjutant to the commanding officer of the Air Force Station, Accra, and appointed officer in charge of the station's Operation Feed Yourself project, the flagship project of General Achampong's National Redemption Council. A natural workaholic and one who enjoyed working in the outdoors, J.J John Rawlings took this responsibility very seriously and dedicated all of his off-duty hours to this task. He was a natural leader, so it came second nature to him to motivate the officers and men under his command to participate actively in the project. He single-handedly operated the station's tractor to plow all arable lands on the Air Force Station, which earned him the admiration of the officers and especially the airmen. His dedication to the project yielded a bumper harvest, which was short-lived when the mode of distribution was deemed most inequitable, much to the utmost dissatisfaction of the young officer. The majority of the harvest went to the commanding officer, which was a common practice in the Ghana Army at the time. He openly expressed his dissatisfaction when approached by the commanding officer with the order, "My boot is open, fill it." His utterances earned him the respect and endeared him to the hearts of the officers and especially the airmen. This singular event in his career propelled him as a unique and empathetic leader who cared for the welfare of his men and the downtrodden. In June 1973, Jerry Rawlings was reposted to the No. 4 Fighter Squadron to continue and complete his operational training on the Air Macquis aircraft. The training was made up of general formation flying and combat, as well as tactical formation flying, to include air-to-ground firing at the Bundasi range. This included live firing with rockets, strafing, high-angle bombing, and skip bogging at the Gambaga live firing range. After these operations, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings gained his combat readiness certification. Jerry Rawlings was a highly skilled and efficient officer with a close rapport with his men, which earned him the rank of Flight Lieutenant in April 1978. By then, he had married his childhood sweetheart and longtime girlfriend, Nana Ajiman, in 1977, at a wedding held at Red Church. The young couple will soon welcome their first child, whom he named Zanetta, meaning, "Let the darkness end," in his mother tongue, Ewe. The name symbolized a call to the end, to end the economic and social misery that Ghana was undergoing. This signified his personal hope that the state of decay would stop, in spite of economic hardships and a new family to provide for. Jerry Rawlings maintained his gift of giving. After June 4th, 1979, the couple's home went from their little oasis to an unofficial refuge for people that believed in Jerry John Rawlings' ideals. Rawlings returned to power in December 31st, 1981, thrust the young couple into a political trajectory where Nana Konadu, a young First Lady, saw an opportunity to contribute to rebuilding Ghana through the development of women, politically and socio-economically. After the birth of Zanetta, the young couple went on to have 3 more children, with each one named after an African freedom fighter, Ya Asante of the Asante Empire, Princess Amina of Sokoto and Zaria, and Kimati of the Kikuyu people, a strong indication of his political ideals and that we have a duty to fight for what is just, even at the cost of our own lives. Early political career. When Jerry Rawlings became head of state of Ghana in 1981, he inherited the worst economy in the nation's history. Food and fuel were scarce. Store shelves were empty, and people had to queue for hours just to buy a tin of milk or a loaf of bread. Every Ghanaian was affected by increasing food shortages and long bread queues. In the rural areas outside of Accra, people lived in dire deprivation, but perhaps better than those in Accra's growing slum areas, which often had unpaved, potholed roads, lacked electricity or sanitation, and offered the unskilled poor no way of bettering their lot. In a string of setbacks that would have broken a lesser man and would have been easy for Rawlings to retreat from public life and live out his years in peaceful quiet. But that was not Jerry Rawlings. This is where he showed his character, his patriotism, his faith, and his endurance in the worst of possible circumstances. Throughout the 1980s, Jerry Rawlings led the country through the difficult years of economic recovery. In 1983, he initiated the Economic Recovery Program, ERP, a pragmatic economic program to reverse Ghana's collapsed economy and subsequently revive the financial health of the country in order to generate positive economic growth. After several years, the ERP's successful implementation restored international confidence in Ghana and in turn succeeded in restoring national pride in Ghanaians. With unwavering determination, J.J Rawlings brought government closer to the people by reintegrating the grassroots, including market women, fishermen, informal workers, and other urban poor and working class people into national politics. He encouraged citizens to participate in local governance through the People Defense Committees, PDCs, established by the PNDC to mobilize the masses and hold politicians accountable for their actions. Rawlings' primary objective was the institutionalization of the system of participatory governance that allows, in his words, people at the local level to determine their own development priorities, generate financial resources locally, and control the use to which those resources are put. Our objective is to end, once and for all, the parasitic relationship that enables the urban elite not only to live off the sweat of the rural dweller, but to dictate to him the conditions of his existence. Today, this works through district assemblies with decision-making powers, ensuring that Ghanaians at the grassroots level take part in decisions, making a national development. He oversaw the rebuilding of the nation's infrastructure and writing of a new constitution. After the re-establishment of multi-party democracy, he founded the National Democratic Congress and was democratically elected the first president of Ghana's Fourth Republic in 1992. His term witnessed massive decentralization reforms, a growing middle class, privatization schemes, and a proliferating private media. Development policies under Rawlings. J.J Rawlings focused on implementing human-centered development policies in order to improve the health, nutritional status, and longevity of Ghanaians, where almost 40% of total public expenditure was allocated to education and the health sector alone. The ultimate aim was to create a socially equitable system of health for Ghanaians. In the area of rural development, vigorous and comprehensive rural development programs were realized. Electrification, which was available to less than 20% of Ghana's population, was extended to all 10 regions at the time and every district. While embarking on rural development programs policies were implemented to expand Ghana's middle-income group. With food security a priority for Rawlings, agricultural policies were initiated that resulted in the recognition of Ghana's food production growth of 148% for the period between 1995 to 1997, as the third highest achievement on the record after Jordan, 157%, and China, 156%, in the World Bank's 1999 to 2000 development report. Aggressive policies were implemented to support Ghana's traditional export industries, such as gold and cocoa, and also to diversify its export content. In 1994, Ghana Investment Promotion Center was created to encourage and promote investment in Ghana. Export initiatives were put in place to increase the supply of non-traditional exports through the establishment of export production villages, EPV, and systematic market research. As part of the government's policy to attract viable foreign direct investment to Ghana, the Free Zone scheme was implemented in 1997. This was an extensive and generous incentive package for investors interested in developing and operating free zone enclaves in single factory free zones in Ghana. International relations. Under President Rawlings, Ghana remained committed to peace and stability within Africa and internationally through its pursuance of a policy of good neighborliness along the country's common borders. This was consistent with Ghana's commitment to peace and stability and crucial to the social economic development of Ghanaians. While strengthening ties with progressive movements worldwide, especially members of the non-aligned, and providing support to the African struggle, he restored relations with Western nations as well as China and Japan. To enhance trade and economic cooperation between Ghana and other nations, President Rawlings undertook investment tours to the West, emerging economies of Asia and within the African continent as well. He, however, criticized the global system as inequitable, emphasizing that developing economies that are operating free market systems are not deriving maximum benefit from the global free market system. He spoke passionately about international political morality and inequalities, and never hesitated to criticize the savagery of capitalism whenever he had the opportunity. Within the sub-region, President Rawlings contributed tremendously to conflict resolution and political stability in countries such as Rwanda, Sierra Leone, and Liberia. Under his leadership, the Ghana Armed Forces regained its reputation as one of the finest and most disciplined forces in military operations around the world. His special interest in the armed forces can be credited to his early career in the Ghana Armed Forces, where he showed exceptional skill and acumen while proving himself as a distinguished fighter pilot. His experience as a military strategist was a major contributory factor to Ghana's record in conflict resolution in the sub-region. This was observed in 1994 when he became the ECOWAS chairman during the Liberian Civil War. Under his chairmanship, the Akosombo Accord and Accra Peace Agreements were signed. Post-presidency, elder statesman. After 2 terms in office, President Rawlings stepped down and handed over to his elected successor on January 7, 2001, reinforcing Ghana's transition to a stable, multi-party democracy. Later that year, he was appointed as the first United Nations eminent person for international volunteerism, helping to raise the profile of millions of volunteers working for peace and development around the world. As a former head of state, J.J Rawlings refused to embrace traditional retirement. After leaving office, he maintained a strong international presence as an advocate of peace, security, and social injustice. In October 2020, the African Union appointed him as the AU High Representative for Somalia to mobilize the continent and the rest of the international community to fully assume its responsibilities and contribute more actively to the quest for peace, security, and reconciliation in Somalia. Through negotiations with the Somali leadership, politicians, and neighboring countries, J.J Rawlings managed to get the parties to embrace the transitional roadmap. By October 2011, President Rawlings was also appointed Ambassador of the Pan-African Parliament. Through active engagement at various forums from Addis Ababa to Djibouti, through Istanbul to London to Nairobi, President Rawlings worked to ensure that various interest groups in the Somali political climate reached consensus on bringing the traditional period to an end. To this end, President Rawlings is recognized for his statesmanship and dedicated service to restoring peace and security in Somalia. Later life, philanthropy. President Rawlings dedicated most of his retirement years to philanthropy. He focused on supporting the underprivileged by providing support towards medical care, the payment of school fees, and issues of accommodation and personal welfare. In March 2017, the former president funded the spinal correction surgery of Maxwell Agoso, a young boy who had a serious spinal abnormality that threatened to cut his life short because of the pressure brought to bear on his heart. Rawlings also solicited funding for young Naomi Gomeshi's life-saving heart surgery at the Kolobu Teaching Hospital. The former president was also passionate about nature and deeply interested in matters of the environment when he was in office. He would personally join voluntary groups to desil drains and prevent diseases like Broley ulcer and guinea worm. The passion never waned, and on countless occasions, he expressed concern about the hacking down of trees to construct concrete buildings and the failure of Ghanaians to embrace tree planting as an environmentally progressive policy. In a note he penned on the environment for a magazine in 2013, President Rawlings wrote, "Nature is the only true friend I have. I have always derived so much comfort and serenity from her. The loyalty, trust, and integrity of Mother Nature has never been in doubt. If only our greed and lust for power had not demeaned us, the life of Mother Nature and the environment would be hanging perilously in the balance. If I could live my life again and again, I would still spend it trying to protect her. My profession as a pilot would have been empty without the beauty and wonder of the landscape. Mother Nature and the environment made me a more responsible person. My relationship with nature and the environment is too spiritual for a sentence piece." On his 70th birthday in 2017, a symposium on the environment was held in his honor under the theme, "Protecting and Safeguarding the National Environment for Generations." Conclusion. Jerry Rawlings has gone home now, leaving those of us who grieve his passing with the memories he left behind, the good that he did, the sacrifices he made, and the dreams he kept alive. We are forever grateful for his courage and conviction, his humanity, and his compassion for others. But above all, we love Jerry Rawlings for what he represented: a determination to succeed against the odds, humility, an innate sense of social justice, and a tremendous sense of service to country. He gave to himself with intelligence and energy and devotion to duty. In the words of William Shakespeare, "I have touched the highest point of all my greatness, and from that full meridian of my glory, I haste now to my setting." Jerry John Rawlings, your work on earth is done, and your life and legacy will be an enduring reminder that a life of service is a life well and greatly lived. May God bless Jerry Rawlings, and may he rest in eternal peace.